I don't really do first look stuff. I was going to do a review of the Garmin Varia Vue after I've been using it for a few months. But then the first time I took this camera out on my bike, this happened.
You are f***ing you f***ing idiot!
So one of the basic questions for what is basically a cycling dash cam, is the camera good enough to capture a license plate? Yep, looks pretty good to me. Now look, no harm done, could have been, but there wasn't, except maybe to my blood pressure, and I might have used a few British curse words after the fact. But anyway, this probably isn't a fair enough test for everything. It was daytime, it was good light actually, so good that a Porsche driver should be able to see a couple of cyclists. All right, I'm going to stop on that. Look, I have used this. This is the Cycliq 12CE. This is not the current model. The current model is called the 12 Sport, which is 4K. This is not 4K. This is, actually, I don't know what it is, 2.7 or something. I've had this for many years. It's been very, very reliable. The battery life is not perfect, and it doesn't really integrate with Garmin stuff as much as you'd like to. Or rather, it does, but it's a bit clunky and a bit unreliable with the connection. So when you connect it to a Garmin Light Network, for example, on your Garmin Head unit, this didn't always play ball, and it was never really clear why. Anyhow, it meant that even though I liked this, the day that Garmin launched the Varia Vue front light camera, I bought it immediately, which is exactly the same as I did with the RCT715, which is the Garmin rear radar and light and camera unit. Now, for me, the main purpose of a front camera on a bike like this is to act as a safety camera, to record whatever happens as you put your life in the hands of all the motorists around you. I don't use this to record videos for example, YouTube. I don't expect it to have the image quality or the stability of, say, a GoPro camera or a action camera like one from DJI. When I want to shoot cycling footage for this channel, I'll put a Hero 13 or an Insta360 X5 or a DJI Action 5 Pro. Yeah, I kind of mix it up a bit, on a stick or a mount and capture it with those. I know their strengths and weaknesses, and I know I'm going to get really good image quality from them regardless of what I do with them. Meanwhile though, the Garmin Varia Vue just sits there all the time capturing everything. Now, I am a daytime cyclist, so I can't speak much about the light at night. It's rated at 600 lumens, which basically is really, really bright. But high intensity lights kill batteries really fast. So I tend to keep mine on day flash mode all the time to warn motorists coming the other way. So the light for this, for what I'm doing, is excellent. And because I've got it on day mode, I'm not really killing the battery too quickly. I have not used this at night because I don't cycle at night. The ability for this to illuminate the way forward for me, I can't speak to, but there's plenty of videos that say it is actually really, really good because it's just so bright. Now this does shoot in 4K. It's 4K, but it's 4K including the stabilization. So just bear with me here. So typically an action camera or any camera that doesn't involve moving the sensor or having the camera on a gimbal manages stabilization through software. It actually takes a bigger image than, let's say, the 4K image that we're talking about here. It'll actually take a larger one, 5.7K maybe, or maybe something larger, and it will basically dispose of those pixels around the edge of the frame that you want using software magic that basically means that the image that you see stays still. And it does that by, it's moving around, it just dumps, you get the idea. This camera, as far as I can tell, is 4K before stabilization. So when you then stabilize the image, what you get is less than 4K. I don't care. It's a dash cam. It's a cycling dash cam. That's the whole point of it. Providing I can see license plates, then I actually think it's going to be good enough for what I'm going to be putting it through. Now, okay, that's the camera. Looking at the unit itself, this looks very much like there is a Garmin Varia front light that's kind of cigar shaped and very, very similar to this, and is really, really well built. This looks like they just squashed two of them and flattened the top and the bottom. But it is equally as robust and well built. This is made of high quality plastics or polymers. It does feel a very, very solid unit. Now, having said that, I use a tether like I do with most of my cameras. I always use a tether because if this falls a bike at 22 to 25 miles an hour, it's not going to have a good day no matter how well it's built. So using that tether at least means it should stay reasonably close to my bike if the mount fails. Now on it there is a power button on one side, there is also a mode button. There is a covered USB-C charging port on the back and a covered micro SD slot as well. I have a 512 megabyte card in here. The reason for that is I found when I've had smaller cards that quite often the card will, on a 4 or 5 hour ride, which I do occasionally, will have already overwritten the beginning of the ride by the time I get to the end of the ride. So I just put a 512 meg card in it. They're $40 these days. So the mount is a standard GoPro mount, which is very reliable, but not the fastest to attach and remove. By comparison, the Cyclic one used a proprietary quarter turn mount, which was not a Garmin quarter turn, it was a Cyclic quarter turn, which is a bit annoying. But it meant it was much easier to take this off and put it back on again. The reason that's important is you might be switching bikes, but the most important one to me is I don't have charging cables around my bike when my bike's in the garage when I'm not riding it. I tend to take all the devices off, charge them somewhere, and then put them all back on again. And it also means I can wipe them down, keep them clean, make sure the lenses are clean on the front and stuff like that. But with a GoPro mount, particularly one that is a screw rather than a thumb screw, it's a pain in the butt to have to do that, which is a bit annoying. Plus, you can't necessarily keep it level. So I think what I'm saying is this isn't the best mount these days for something as heavy as this and something that you want to be able to quickly take off and put back on again, say for switching bikes or for charging. Let's talk about battery life. Now, the battery life kind of depends on two things. One is the light mode and also the camera resolution. There are lower resolutions than 4K, but honestly, if you want to use those, don't bother buying this camera. The more light you use, the higher the resolution you use, and if you use stabilization, that is going to reduce the battery life. Now, I would say for most cyclists, this battery life is enough. For daily commuters, maybe you need a midweek charge, but for longer rides of 6 hours or more, such as an Ironman triathlon training ride, well, then you're going to need some fairly careful battery management. Now, the original version of the Cycliq 12, which was literally called Cycliq 12, I think, the original one, which is not this, was a beast and had a huge battery in it, and I could just about get 6 or 7 hours out of the battery if I had the camera on and I had the light off, which at the end of the day, I'd rather have the camera. That's the most important thing. That means my wife can sue whoever it is that runs me over with their round truck, whereas the light, I guess, stops the truck hitting me in the first place. This one was about 4 or 5 hours. This one, I'm probably getting, I'm just about getting 6 hours out of this if I really push it. And again, I'd be doing that by turning the light off, just having the camera on. I've used these Cyclic ones for years. They're good products, but the development's inconsistent. Garmin tend to engineer products that are well made, but are also, love it or hate it, are very, very consistent with each other when it comes to their software. And having a Varia system here with integrated radar, light, and camera, front and rear, and that all integrates with my Garmin head unit, just feels a lot more polished and reliable to me. So on that topic, I can control the front camera from my Garmin Edge head unit. I use the Garmin Edge 1050 these days, but I've also used it with my Garmin Edge 1040. Okay, fair enough, not much different between those two head units, but it was pretty smooth and easy to operate them. I can start and stop recording if I want to. I can mark footage, and I can also change the settings mid-ride too, which is really good. So the integration feels really solid. In terms of reliability, I've had zero complaints, although it's probably a bit early to be really talking about that. I only had it a couple of months. But after those couple of months, I've had no crashes, no freezes, no problem with any of the footage. Generally, I find Garmin's head units and the rear camera have been rock solid for me for, 15 years now. So I'm not really expecting any major problems with it. If you ride on roads, cameras, lights, and a rear radar are absolutely essential. Combining the units reduces an awful lot of clutter on your bike and also reduces the amount of charging you have to do. Plus, they look a lot sleeker. My only real hang up with this is the price. At the moment, this is $549 US, which is about 200 more than the current version of the Cycliq Fly 12, which is the Fly 12 Sport. It's really difficult to justify that unless you're a very dedicated Garmin user. So for most cyclists, I'm going to say the Cycliq offers nearly the same experience at a better price. But if you're a Garmin user and maybe you're a bit of a Garmin fanboy, I think the Garmin is probably the better one to do. And certainly the integration with the rest of the Garmin gear that I have on my bike just makes it the choice for me. Okay, again, first look, not a long-term video because I've only had it a couple of months, but I like what I'm seeing so far. I like the integration, I like the quality, I like the build quality of it, and it's already potentially helped me if I've been hit by a Porsche Panamera once. So there you go. My name's Julian, and I really need a haircut. If I can run with it, bike with it, hike with it, or film with it, I'll make videos and put them here on YouTube. If that's of interest to you, please do subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It does help, it really does. As always, thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.